when I talk about clarity, you guys, what I do is I just deal in 90-day windows. Okay, let me get clarity on what must happen in the next 90 days. What's possible in the next 90 days? Right? What needs to happen in the next 90 days? What do I know I'm capable of accomplishing in the next 90 days from my health, from my business, from my relationships, to the aspects of my life that are important to me, right? So I'm going to look at these. Okay, so I've got the next 6 months of the year left. We're halfway through the year. So what were my 2016 goals, right? Okay, then what is possible? What must happen in the next 90 days to make sure I'm on track to make those a reality?
It's the human connection in business that I think is the most important.
Man, I love that, right? Because we see so many people today that will go out there and try to network, but they'll go to this whatever event and they're like, "Oh, I didn't get any business out of it. It was a waste of time."
Right.
But they go out of like, give to me, not like me pouring into you.
Right.
And you obviously doing a brilliant, amazing job at this, and I feel that's one of the reasons you've been so ungodly successful with all your ventures, right? So, what kind of advice would you give to entrepreneurs in networking to connect with people to give? Like, how do I know if we're having a conversation right now? How would I identify something that you need that's maybe a strength that I can give to you, and how do you really offer that up to them to develop that relationship?
Yeah, so I think there's three really important things, right? So, and whenever I'm in a networking conversation, if I have the chance, and sometimes you don't, but if you have the chance, do a little pre-research, right? If you know you've got a conversation scheduled with someone, or there's someone that you want to meet, do a little digging up to understand who they are, what they do. I mean, there's so much information online about people nowadays. And I don't mean that in the cheesy way, like the old sales guys would walk into somebody's meeting and look at something up on the wall, like a fishing trophy or something, like, "Oh, so you like fishing, huh?" Nothing, like a little deeper, like understanding what it is that they do. So have that in mind, but don't have any preconceived notions, because the second thing is lots of questions and lots of listening. I mean, when I first have a conversation with someone, even if I've never met them before, I'm just going to ask a lot of questions. I want to know, what is it you do? Like, who do you serve? What what motivates you? What are you trying to create? What's the vision that you have? And I try to do a lot of listening, because from there you can start to pick up those nuggets. And then the third thing is ask how you can help. I think this is just something that we don't do enough of, because we're kind of afraid that, oh, that'll mean I'll be doing work for free or something like that. But just say, "Hey, what can I do to help you move things along? Is there anything that I can do to help move things along?" Now, oftentimes what will happen is that will prompt the other person to ask you, "Well, I don't know. What is it that you do? Like, what could you do to help me?" And then you can get into a better conversation about it. But by just asking that question, even if the answer is nothing, people are going to be grateful that you asked.
So a couple last questions for you. I know you get interviewed all the time, right? You're on a lot of these podcasts, radio shows, whatever that may be. Is there any question that never seems to get asked that you wished you'd get asked?
Gosh, that's a good question, Josh. Yeah, you know what? There is. I think that throughout my life, one of the things that I've always asked entrepreneurs is like, "Hey, do you have a foundational principle that runs your life? Is there something that you use to make decisions?" And I'll share, because I didn't have that. I really didn't have that. Like, it was 1 month it was how much money can I make? And another month it was, can I buy that house? And another month it was, can I hit that number? And I wanted to know, like, hey, I get confused easily. And I have, tons of businesses and cash flow. And, I look at financial statements, which are really hard for me. And so I need bigger level decisions. How do I do that? And I've asked hundreds of the most successful people in the world. And Josh, here's the people I respect. I'm going to go further than that. The people whose lives I would want, like the people who I look at and I say, "Man, I want my life to be like that. I don't want to trade places with anybody." I have Katie. You can't win past that. But I want to improve where we are. And what they tell me is, and what I've summarized it to is, number one, your marriage is most important. And number two, absolute transparency is critical. And when people say, "Hey, I'm not married," then I tell them, okay, then become the person you want to marry or you want to be in a relationship with, and absolute transparency is critical. And I think that high level view of the world is important for this reason. I'm now more convinced than I ever have been that we go choose the person who's going to reflect back to us what we need to hear. And when I talk to entrepreneurs, one of the first things that we talk about is let's get increased communication with your wife, or with your husband. What do you need to talk to them about? Where have you not been transparent? And I'll just share one story about that, because this is really a question I wish people ask me. My base level, here's how I make decisions in the world, is my marriage is most important, and I'm going to tell Katie everything, because then things get better. And about 5 months ago, a friend of mine, Andrew O'Brien, was in our offices, and we had a quick discussion, and I knew there were some challenges there, and I couldn't really figure it out. And then he came to one of our classes like you did, Josh. And in the class, we had this intervention, or this discussion that started with, hey, are you okay? And it ended up with him getting very real about his lack of communication with his girlfriend and the mother of his daughter, Candace, and not having told her what was really going on for him. And so he resolved in the first day of our class. You've seen people do this in our classes. Like, they'll make a statement, I'm going to do this overnight. But he said, I'm really going to figure this out overnight. And the next day he came in and said, I want to share something with everybody, like before I asked. And he said, last night I went home and I talked to Candace, and she, I told her what was going on, and then I listened to her like you talked about, and I listened without talking like you talked about. And she told me what she needs and what I've been missing and where I can help her. And by the end of the conversation, we were talking about how we move forward, and we were both really excited. And I realize now that if I just tell Candace everything, things will work out. That was a few months ago. Andrew has never run a business before. He just started a company called The Publicity Guy. He now has a 5-person team, and he just had his first 6-figure month. I wish people would ask this question more, because if you focus where things are most important, it floats all boats.
Yeah, I love it. What's that saying out there, that behind every successful man is a great woman? And if you're not transparent, you're not communicating, how then can they support you?
No question. And I think that's the historic way of putting it, Josh. I like to think that next to every successful entrepreneur is their first follower. And if you're fortunate enough that first follower is your spouse, you should lean into that relationship as far as you possibly can.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Love it. So all of our listeners, man, they're here right now. They're listening. They're watching this on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, however they're on right now. Because, dude, they want to go out there and create an amazing life for themselves and their family, just like you've been able to do, dude. So
Sure.
Any last words of inspiration or motivation or anything that you'd like to leave them with so they can go out there and create the life that they know that they truly want and deserve?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I appreciate the chance, Josh, because, dude, I'm so proud to be on this podcast, and just watching everything you've accomplished, and watching over the past few years as you built a following and built your businesses and built your confidence and have become a transparent, like no veneer, no BS entrepreneur. And that makes me so excited. And, when I get the chance to answer the question, like what can I share? We base all of our programs around what we call the contribution equation. And I want everyone to understand that I'm a capitalist. When I start talking about contribution, sometimes people think, does this guy only work with charities? I've worked with a lot of charities. I've donated to a lot of charities, but I'm a capitalist. When people say, what religion are you? What political party are you? I say capitalist. I'm not kidding. I think it's the most perfect system there is. But in a capitalist system, and the one that we deal with, where we're creating value, capital flows to contribution. So for me, how do I get entrepreneurs into contribution as fast as we can? Because if we're all honest with ourselves, here's what I know. Entrepreneurs like money because it's a way to keep score, but we all want to make a difference. And if we can hardwire to the fact that making a difference is what really feels like success, we will have all the money, all the influence, all the affluence we want. But we often chase things other than contribution because, like I did, I chased a degree, I chased other crap. I chased cars, I chased women, I even used drugs, I drank too much, I did all kinds of dumb shit. Until I figured out that making a difference is what matters. And here's how you get there. It's only 4 steps. The first thing anyone who's listening, I implore you to do, I beg you to do, because I need you to. There's only so many entrepreneurs in the world, and we are the most important part of this planet. We are the only consistent source of positive human evolution, and we always will be. So I'm begging you, lower pressure and noise in your life. That's the first step. If you look at what every great entrepreneur has called back from the end of his career, he desperately pleads with those who are just starting out and says, lower pressure and noise in your life. And here's what it sounds like. Don't waste your time. Be transparent. Tell people what you need. Share who you are. Don't create a veneer. Just be who you are. And don't overcomplicate things. Take care of your body. Take care of yourself. Organize your thoughts. Find a system that works for you. They beg we lower pressure and noise because they know that we're all in this together. The next step is you increase protection and support. And this is the hardest thing for people like us. I want you to know I understand that we've always known we need more help than most to get to our destination, to get to where we know we need to be. But any request for help makes us feel vulnerable and exposed. But I want us to all be very clear that we're not going to get there alone. Entrepreneurs learn nothing standing still and very little alone. So when we build a team, when we join a team, when we start moving forward together, everything gets better. And the way we do that is we ask transparently for protection and support. So you lower pressure and noise. You ask transparently for protection and support because we need it from those around you. Tell people what's really going on, what you really need, what you're really thinking, and suddenly the world starts looking differently. And while the rest of the world tells you everything you need to add, change, modify, here's what I want you to know. If you lower pressure and noise and you increase protection and support, your strengths and abilities will just start to show. You don't have to go chase them down. Lower the noise in your life. Ask people for help. Shit will just start working out. If you think Josh knew what this business was going to look like when he started 5 years ago to create multi-million dollars and monthly income that looks like annual income, it didn't happen. What happened was getting really clear, asking for help. A whole new set of strengths showed, a whole new set of confidence showed. And then that's the fourth step. If you do these things, you will be able to make your greatest contribution. And that is how entrepreneurs throughout history, the shortcuts they used to get to where you and I have heard about them. They lowered pressure and noise every day. They drove the things out of their lives that didn't matter. They stopped caring about what didn't matter. They cared about less. They focused on less. They made the important things very important because then you can focus. And for all of you, what are you doing for someone else? What are you doing for something else? What are you carrying around you don't need anymore? Go through your closet, take out every single thing in there and ask yourself, does this give me joy? And if it doesn't, pitch it because it's noise. Get focused. And then get real about help. We all need it. I need it. You need it. Admit it. The more people you tell, the more you let them complete the other side of this contribution equation because we all work through this together. We all need protection and support, and we all have pressure and noise. And I know that just like Josh, your strengths and abilities will show, and we need you to go make your greatest contribution because if there's one thing I want everyone on this call to understand is this. There are a lot of systems in society today that are not helping us move forward. And there's a lot of things that are hurting people like you and I, Josh. And, to the guy in the cubicle, to the parent who's been told your kid is broken, to the person who knows you can do more, but you just can't find the path. What I want you to know is anyone in history who you remember, anyone in history who you care to remember is just like us. And the restless agitation, the cognitive dissonance, the frustration that every person who's ever mattered has felt is what you're feeling right now. And while everyone else wants you to know where you need to change and fix things, I want you to know something. There is nothing wrong with you, and you are not alone.